Lately, Whitney Webb has been stirring up some serious conversations on social media about Elon Musk and his potential connections to Jeffrey Epstein's network. Now, at first glance, this might sound like just another wild internet theory. But when you dig into the details she's laid out, the picture she paints is both fascinating and troubling. Let's start with what Webb initially tweeted. She said, "People have asked about my views on Elon Musk and his connections to the Epstein network. My views are spelled out in my book, and also a more recent article focusing in part on Musk, but mainly on Howard Lutnick, Epstein's longtime next-door neighbor and incoming Commerce Secretary. I will post the relevant excerpt below and a link to the article itself, and you can make your own judgments on the significance of its content." Notably, Musk's SpaceX was allegedly infiltrated by Lutnick's former next-door neighbor, intelligence asset, pedophile, and sexual blackmailer Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein reportedly introduced a member of his entourage to Musk's brother Kimball, then on the board of SpaceX. That young woman, who had previously dated Epstein and lived at the 30166th Street East apartment complex now known to have housed women Epstein trafficked, then dated Kimball Musk from 2011 to 2012. As a consequence, the relationship with Kimball brought Epstein into contact with the Musk family and its businesses. This allegedly culminated in Epstein touring SpaceX facilities in 2012, a claim a SpaceX attorney very belatedly denied after the incident was first reported by Business Insider. Alright, let's pause and unpack this for a moment. What Webb is suggesting here is that Epstein, through his network, somehow found a way into Musk's orbit, through his brother, Kimball Musk no less. And if Epstein really did tour SpaceX, that raises some big questions. Why would someone like Jeffrey Epstein, whose reputation, even back then, was dubious at best, be allowed anywhere near a company as critical as SpaceX? I mean, this isn't just any company. It's handling cutting-edge technology and working directly with NASA. And here's another wrinkle. Why did it take so long for SpaceX to officially deny this claim? If it didn't happen, you'd think they'd shut it down immediately, right? The delayed response just adds another layer of intrigue to this story. Now, Webb doesn't stop there. She brings Musk's social connections into the mix in another tweet. Let me read it to you. In addition, Elon Musk himself was subpoenaed as part of the now-shuttered USVI lawsuit against the bank JP Morgan for its role in facilitating Epstein's crimes, and is known to have socialized with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell on several occasions prior to Epstein's 2019 arrest and death later that same year. In one such meeting, brokered by LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, Musk was reported to have introduced Epstein to Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook Meta. Musk also attended the Edge Foundation's billionaire dinners, which courted top figures in Silicon Valley and operated as a de facto front for an Epstein-run influence operation for several years, coinciding with the genesis of the billionaire dinners. Okay, let's talk about this. The idea of these billionaire dinners sounds like something out of a conspiracy novel, but they were real. These gatherings brought together some of the most powerful people in tech and business, and according to Webb, Epstein was right there pulling strings and building relationships. Now, if Musk really introduced Epstein to Mark Zuckerberg, that's huge. It suggests that Epstein wasn't just lurking on the fringes of Silicon Valley, he was actively networking with the people shaping our digital future. And here's the thing. These kinds of connections aren't just casual run-ins at a party. When billionaires meet at events like this, they're discussing deals, ideas, and strategies that can influence entire industries. If Epstein had even a fraction of the access Webb suggests, we're looking at a potential pipeline of influence that's both unprecedented and unsettling. But it doesn't stop with social ties. Webb also points out business connections. Here's what she tweeted next. In addition, Musk shares some business links to Epstein associates. For instance, a major supplier to Tesla, LS Power, via its subsidiary EVgo, and its affiliated hedge fund Luminous Management are closely linked to Jonathan Barrett, who was a managing director of LS Power and has led Luminous Management since 2011. Barrett also held several other senior roles at LS Power between 2003 and 2008. Barrett is a former protege of Jeffrey Epstein's, who started his career working at Epstein's firm J. Epstein & Company, and also became the CFO and vice president of ASA Properties, the real estate firm run by Epstein's brother Mark and co-founded by Barrett's brother Anthony. So now we're talking about Tesla. LS Power, a major supplier, has links to a man who was once a protege of Jeffrey Epstein. And let's not forget, LS Power is deeply involved in Tesla's supply chain through its subsidiary, EVgo. The idea that Epstein's network could have infiltrated a company as influential as Tesla is deeply concerning. Think about this. Tesla isn't just an electric car company, it's also a leader in clean energy and a key player in shaping the future of transportation. If there are lingering ties to Epstein's network through its suppliers, what does that mean for the integrity of its operations? And finally, Webb zooms out to look at the bigger picture. She tweets, "Ultimately, many of the most famous Silicon Valley billionaires, Musk, Zuckerberg, Brin, Page, Bezos, Gates, Hoffman, Thiel, etc., have ties to Epstein-Maxwell that deserve scrutiny. Business links matter because many of Epstein's crimes were financial, not merely sexual. In nature, he was a big-time money launderer and currency manipulator. The Epstein network ultimately leads back to a fusion of organized crime and intelligence, mainly US, Israeli, UK, and thus close business ties to Epstein suggest close ties to that broader network, which is the bigger story at the end of the day than Epstein himself. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Webb argues that Epstein's crimes weren't just about personal misconduct. They were part of a larger network involving organized crime and intelligence agencies. If that's true, then the tech industry's ties to Epstein might not just be a footnote in history. They could be part of a much larger, much darker story about how power operates in the modern world. So where does this leave us? Well, it's hard to say. If Webb's allegations hold water, we could see a wave of new investigations into Silicon Valley's past and present. And if those investigations reveal systemic issues, it might force a reckoning not just for individual companies, but for the entire tech industry. But here's the thing. Even if only a fraction of this is true, it's a wake-up call. It's a reminder that behind all the talk of innovation and progress, there are still old, entrenched systems of power and influence that need to be questioned. This story is far from over, and as more details come to light, we'll all need to keep asking tough questions. Because if there's one thing we've learned from this, it's that the connections between money, power, and technology are more complex and more troubling than we ever imagined.